Hello viewers, welcome to the Diaspora Forum. This is a platform for participants to debate and empower each other on the issues regarding investing in Kenya and also promoting marketing and branding Kenya abroad. Today's discussion session will cover issues and topics related to current business opportunities, challenges and investment trends, and in particular regard to the effect of Kenya's new constitution and the current difficult economic climate. The forum will debate about how to attract investment in real estate, construction, and property in investment, which have been a major vehicle that the diaspora have used to invest in Kenya. Hence, the continuous effort for the Ministry of Housing to come to the UK to invite people, to give this information to people. So today, viewers, I want you to engage with us, and if any part of this discussion touches you, if you feel you want to contact us, make sure that you do, because this is all about Kenya. So welcome to the program. Thank you very much, the panel, and welcome to the program as well. We have in attendance the Minister of Housing, Soita Shitanda, welcome, and we have the Minister of Transport, Hon Amos Kimunya. We are also represented by the Kenya High Commission here, His Excellency Ephraim Ngare, and we also have a lot of people here, Kenyans and non-Kenyans, who are going to be talking more of what are their issues regarding investing in Kenya. So to start off with, let's ask our ministers, why should anyone, Kenyan, foreign, or diaspora, why would they want to invest in Kenya? What is there in Kenya that is so appealing for investors?
I would say investing in Kenya makes sense to most investors. At least that's the feedback we have received from people who took that decision 100 years ago, in the last 50 years, in the last 60 years, that all the people who have invested in Kenya have found very good return on the investment. The government has also been taking into account the lessons learned on the current investments, the issues raised in terms of the legislative frameworks, and has taken action on making it easier for investors to come into Kenya, for them to operate within Kenya. If you may recall, around about 2006-2007, we had a major review of all the business regulations, about 1,325 of them, and these, after review, about 700 of them were eliminated or simplified to make it better, easier for business to do business. And following that, there was a business a regulatory unit that was set up at the Treasury to ensure that any new laws coming up are business friendly. So from a legislative perspective, the legal frameworks are there, and it's been made even much better now by the new constitution. From the culture, Kenya has embraced capitalism right from the word go. So it's for a business person, you're at home, it's a fish into water as they get into Kenya. In terms of the government has always been pro-business in terms of its outlook, in terms of its pronouncements, and has engaged with the private sector, the Kenya Private Sector Forum, the National Chamber of Commerce. So really, these all elements are there for people wanting to do business in Kenya to be facilitated. And our being here today shows part of the commitment of the government to just get around some of these issues and engage with the investors, current and potential.
Yeah, maybe I would just wish to add one or two things. I think Kenya as an investment destination has become even more attractive after the collapse of the borders in the East African region. We are talking of a population of 130 million people. And when you look at the infrastructure that is required for investment purposes in the region, that is, we are looking at 5 countries, Kenya has a better infrastructure base. So this makes it a better destination for investment for the region and even beyond. So what we are saying is yes, come and invest in Kenya. You'll actually not be investing in Kenya, but you'll be investing in the East African region. and we can assure you the returns on your investment will be quite good.
Thank you very much. Anybody from the panel who would like to add, why would we want to put our money into Kenya?
Maybe to add on what the two honorable ministers have said, Kenya is actually the natural gateway to the Eastern and the Great Lakes region. And that actually offers a lot of opportunities as far as any potential investor into Kenya is concerned. Again, no investor is going to put money where you cannot be able to get a human resource. And Kenya, in terms of human resource development, does not have any equal within that particular region. And also, we have a lot of very rapidly developing middle class in Kenya. And these are businessmen that have actually already featured very well in business. And generally, as the minister said, in terms of infrastructure, the whole region, I don't think there is any other country that has better infrastructure for business to be able to flourish in that part of the region. And Kenya also continues to be the epicenter of both peacemaking and humanitarian affairs, and all those activities that are being done by the various NGOs in Kenya also generate a lot of business for the businessmen who are operating within Kenya. And generally, Kenya has also been a beacon of stability since the attainment of independence, apart from the short period that we had problems arising out of the disputed presidential elections after the 2007 elections. But that is behind us now. And all the features that any potential businessman would be looking for are present in Kenya today.
Thank you very much. Yes?
What are the sort of current challenges you feel that need to be addressed in order to make the system and the inward investment a lot more friendlier?
I think one of the challenges that as I see it is perhaps that investors don't have as much information as they should be having. Because from where we sit, we know that so much is happening and so much is planned to happen. But that information is not with the investors. And we've been trying to get that through the Kenya Investment Authority, through the Brand Kenya, through the various initiatives, in terms of getting people to know this is what is being planned. These are the opportunities. Take advantage of all these opportunities before somebody snaps at them. So that's one of the challenges as I see it. It's not more in terms of problems that cannot be resolved. It's not about that we don't have roads. We moved heavily in terms of investment in roads. Just in the last year's budget, I believe about $2 billion has been earmarked for investment in infrastructure. When you look at IT, Kenya is perhaps one of the very few countries in Africa that has 3 fiber cables, submarine fiber cables, that have come in through government initiative. And that has opened up a whole new world. In 2002, we just had under 100,000 users of mobile phones. In fact, the license that Safaricom was granted was conditional on them increasing that number to 700,000 in 5 years' time. In 5 years' time, by 2007, that number had hit close to 10 million, not 700,000. Right now we are talking about 20 million users on mobile telephones. And that shows you that in the last 10 years, the last 8 years, that number increasing from just under 100,000 to about 20 million users of mobile telephony is a big leap. And that opens up a whole new dimension in terms of doing business. When you look at our power systems, again, yes, we had installed capacity of 1,200 megawatts, because that was seen as also required. But we've seen that is not adequate for Kenya, and we're investing now heavily again in terms of wind, in terms of geothermal, in terms of all manner of coal to increase the capacity by at least double in the last 3 years. Looking through the transport systems, yes, we've been having challenges clogging on the roads. But with the opening up of the bypasses, with the opening of the rail systems, with the opening of our port system, with the opening of the airline, I again, that should be something of the past. So manpower, again, Kenya is a global supplier now of manpower requirements, not just for the region, but into the world. And if you look at the number of universities that are sprouting up, it's nobody should have any reason for wanting to look for labor outside Kenya, because there is enough. And I think also looking through our strengths in the financial services, the number of banks, the insurance sector, the capital markets. It's very few places in this world that you actually move in and mobilize so much resources from the public through the infrastructure bonds, through the corporate papers that are being issued, than you can do in Nairobi. It's at par. Stock exchange is at par with the New York Stock Exchange, is at par with the London Stock Exchange in terms of the infrastructure that's in use, and cross-listing of companies here in South Africa and Nairobi is possible. So the challenge is getting all that information to the potential investors and then making that decision, yes, that Nairobi is ripe, not just for Kenya, as my colleague did mention, but for East Africa, for COMESA. It's 19 countries. For you bring in the Southern African Development Community, SADC. Yeah. You are bringing in more communities, and we've been at the forefront in spearheading the integration of the three blocks, the SADC, COMESA, and EAC, to have a seamless free trade area from Cape to Cairo. So all these opportunities are there, and I believe it's a matter of now people taking a cue from that and saying, we want to get there.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Now, Minister of Housing, you've come to the UK many times and you have actually seen people engaging with what you do. This year, what are you telling Kenyans in the diaspora? You know, because you talked about scarcity of housing last time. Are we still there?
Well, I think what we are telling the Kenyans living in the diaspora is that their involvement in the last 3 years that we have been coming here has been very positive. It's shown quite positive results on the ground, but we are not there yet. I think our national shortage stands at 150,000 housing units in our urban areas, against a supply of only about 35,000 units every year, which have mainly been developed by the private sector. But we are coming now to tell them, look, we are trying to change the way we have been doing things. We want to roll out more housing units just to cope with the rising populations in our urban areas. About a month ago, Cabinet approved the engagement of the private sector through public-private partnerships in the delivery of housing. It also approved for the total renewal of Eastlands. Eastlands, these are the old estates in Nairobi, which were put up in the 30s and 40s when we were still under colonial rule. They sit on about 2,000 acres of land, and we want to do high-rise. But we don't have the resources to do all this. This is why we are reaching out to the private sector. This is why we are reaching out to the diaspora to see how they can come and team up with the government in trying to deliver these houses. It's a very good area of investment, by the way, and we can assure them that whatever monies they put there, we put in place mechanisms of ensuring that whatever is invested in the sector, whatever is invested in the housing sector, actually bears some returns, and those returns go back to the investing public or the investing groups as and when it will be required according to the partnerships.
Oh, thank you very much. And of course we have foreign investors who are trying to access Kenya. The new constitution has made some changes, and we have lawyer Claxton who is going to be talking to us about little concerns that foreign investors might have at the moment about investing in Kenya.
Obviously, as not being a Kenyan, the section that said that non-Kenyans will lose their freehold title, and the land I was about to buy came with freehold title. So I put a hold on buying something which I would no longer own. But you also had another area which caused me some concern, because leasehold land is okay. The trouble is that after, and I think you're building up some possible problems for yourself on the coast, because much of your coastline is owned by non-Kenyans, I assume, but just by looking at where the investment seems to have gone. That property, I assume, now has become leasehold, not freehold. So that and leasehold properties don't, although it might be a 99-year leasehold, after about 70 years people will stop investing in that land. It will begin to become neglected, because people won't want to be, in the last years of a leasehold, people are not wanting to continue investing into it because they won't see a return from it. So I think you've possibly set yourself up for something in the future. For the immediate future, the thing that I sort of worried me was when I read the section on your protection of rights of property, because there was a double negative in section 3, where it starts off by saying the state shall not deprive the persons of property of any description. It goes on and saying that, but then it's linked with an unless, which is another negative, and then it gives a list of reasons why, and that under that unless it references effectively your land and environment, and therefore your land or your new plans on what you're going to do with the land reform. The effect of that double negative now makes it read, if you straighten it out, it says that the state shall deprive persons of their land. Although it starts off saying shall not, the effect of the unless makes it a double negative, and that reads that so you've effectively, within your constitution, given yourself that anything whatsoever, which means almost anything that can be touched and regarded as land or property under the other legislation, is at risk. Now I realise there's lots of good reasons why you do it. I mean, I've just come down from a station in the UK that when it was built, the government made a compulsory purchase order because they needed that land in that area to build the station. But there was a fuss at the time when they bought it, and people were recompensed. So I understand that governments need the right to be able to organise things, but it's a very heavy section. So I'm seeking that I need some early clarification of what's happening with the land that is transferring from freehold to leasehold, and also what your plans are with the changes in the environment that you're planning as far as land redistribution is concerned.
Thank you very much.
Using my former experience as Minister for Lands, I was very instrumental in actually getting these provisions in this constitution in 2005, and it's based on international practice.
But did you intend a double negative?
In terms of, first of all, the tenure, yes, between freehold and leasehold, I think globally all lands are actually leaseholds. Even here, all land is leasehold except some of the crown properties. Then it's on lease to the public, and I think that's one factor that Kenyans said all the land must belong to the public in the first instance, and won't it be leased to a private individual to develop in accordance with certain conditions for a certain period of time, which is 99. And part of the reversal of some of the historical injustice that took place, where some people were given land for as freeholds, others for 10,000 years, 10,000 minus 1 year, others for 1,000 minus 1 year, and people have, some are not even known where they come from, and to sort them out and bring it to the international standard, it was agreed everything they put to 99 years. So that again was just in complying with the international standard. In terms of the double negative, I think the framers of the Constitution want to be very clear that nobody shall be deprived of their land. So that's very clear. And the unless right, was because if you now want land for building a school or building a public road, or because minerals have been found on that land, and it says that all minerals belong to the state, then you must have a provision for how that land now moves from the private person back to the state. But it also gives that the proviso that there shall be compensation.
Thank you very much for that. Yes.
And we must also perceive this aspect of change of land from freehold to leasehold. From this point, that even within that older constitution, you still had leasehold titles issued to a developer. If you go to the city of Nairobi, despite the fact that some of the very older portions are still freehold or peppercorn, you still find leasehold titles. And that did not stop investors from putting up commercial buildings within there. And the other provision that is there is that if you are getting onto the fag's end of the lease, you still are capable of applying, and there is a provision that the provision or the extension will not unnecessarily be withheld. So that is there, it's been built, it's been happening, and it's in practice, and it's actually been going on. There's something else that perhaps I would like to add to what Waziri has also said on that aspect of the aspect of culture that was building in our country had to, at one point or the other, had to stop. We had got to a point where it was okay to walk into a forest and claim this portion of 5 acres is mine. Yet the law is very clear that for you to be allocated that piece of land in the forest, it must be degazetted. But nobody cared. So you're getting to a position where it was getting to be a culture that I could walk in and claim a road or a public piece of land. This new constitution had to make it exceedingly clear that you cannot do that. We had to break that particular culture. And the way to do it is what is actually said. But it also says, and it's very, very clear in there, if you have good title, if you have good ownership, and the route can be traced all the way, compensation, full compensation and adequate compensation will actually be provided, and it's actually in there in that particular.
Right. We've had this side of the roundtable absolutely silent, so we'd like to know, these are like Kenyans in the diaspora, British Kenyans, whatever you want to call it. So dual nationality has made us extremely happy because it means we can invest. How do you feel as Kenyans? I would like each one of you to tell how you feel as Kenyans at the moment. What do we need to do? How can we mobilize people to invest in Kenya now that we know we have rights just like normal Kenyans back home? Anybody can start.
Thank you. No, thank you very much, Janet. First and foremost, I think it is very important as Kenyans in the diaspora to appreciate the fact that we are the first generation. And as a Kenyan, born in Kenya, grew up in the village, had an opportunity to come to the UK, my dream, and most of our people here, is to go back home and live there. In the UK, the system is structured in such a way that if you were not able to work effectively from the age of 18, you will not be able to get a good pension. So our pension that we say is the investment we make back home. If I buy a property in Kenya, it doesn't matter where it is, and I know that when I retire, I'll go back home, and that my property will be able to feed me for the rest of my life. That is my investment, and that is what majority of us are doing. It's a challenge to our children, but we, the first generation, we are very proud, and that's why you see we are compelled by the responsibility and the social responsibility of the society to invest back home. Because if we don't do that, my mother, my uncle, my sister's daughter may not be able to survive, because I'm like the lifeline for these people. So we have that responsibility. So investment, whether the government encourages us or not, we are compelled, and there's no doubt about that. The other thing I need to say is that, of course, we are used to handouts, and we give money to our relatives and families. But one thing we know is that anytime you create every little small micro business, it supports a family, and that family enables them to feed pay school fees, because if you look at why majority of the diaspora send money are very key things: school fees, medical, and general upkeep. Those are very essential. Anything extra is just a bonus, but most of it is very clear. Now, we, from the diaspora perspective, our investment is compulsory, because if you don't, majority of us who are not born here, I will not be able, even if I retire now, I may have a good job, but I've not been able to raise enough pension that will feed me when I retire. I must have something that I'll put my hands on back in Kenya and I'll be proud of, so that when I retire back in my village, I'll be able to sit back and relax and eat what I've invested in.
Thank you very much, Ochieng. Cllr Elizabeth.
Thank you very much, Janet. Well, I'll take you back to the first topic we had on investments. We want to sell Kenya as Kenyans living in the diaspora. What reassurance would we give the people? Well, you've talked about all the changes, but look back at some of the big companies we had and they collapsed. And when we talk to the people, especially foreigners, about investing in Kenya, there is still that if, what would happen? Really, I do not know the wording to make sure that we reassure them that this is different. If they invest, if they start any companies in Kenya, there is that reassurance that it's going to be stable. I don't know whether I drive that point home. You know, there is that stability that they can invest and rest assured that any company, anything they start is not going to collapse. I do not know what part the government is playing to make sure that we give that reassurance to any investors.
Can we get that one sorted out?
Yeah.
I think that's easier one. I think companies collapse for different reasons. Why has Kenya breweries not collapsed? East Africa Breweries has been brewing beer in Kenya since 1900, right? Deloitte is the oldest audit firm in Kenya, has been there for 103 years, right? Standard Chartered,
Unilever.
Bank, Unilever, all the companies that are properly managed have survived. There are people who started companies, but companies don't manage themselves. And then they then have some challenges in their own management. They blame it on the operating environment, right? So, as a government, we cannot manage companies for people. What we try to do is to create the environment where they have proper manpower, it's available to them, they have electricity, they have the business environment through the laws, they have the roads, they have the airports, they have the water, they have customers. And they're integrated within a bigger market, the East Africa community, the COMESA, the SADC. That's why we are doing all those things in terms of sorting out integration with Uganda. Governments don't do business. It's to enable our business community reach markets in Uganda, right? Opening up new roads into Ethiopia. So governments are doing their bit. What we're asking people to do is to recognize that and take advantage of that and say, do I want to start a small company? Or do I want to start big companies? We've seen small groupings of people, the trans-centuries of this world. 26 people coming together and turning small companies into mega companies. We've seen the Chandaria groups, right? Opening up bases and opening up, becoming a Kenyan multinational, operating within Africa and into the Far East. So there's opportunity. The flower industry in Kenya is grown. Right? Turning the whole of Naivasha from a desert to the place that's feeding Europe and the leading producer of flowers in the world. So all these opportunities are there. And what people need to see is, what am I best at? Can I move into Kenya, start it up, professionally run it, and move?
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And I think this is where the Minister could tell us about the bills, the National Housing Corporation.
Yeah, I think we have a series of bills in the sector that are awaiting approval by Parliament, and most of these bills are actually meant to streamline some of the handicaps we have had in the sector. Like we have a lot of issues about planning. we have other issues about the use of alternative technology in the delivery of housing. It has remained a problem for a long time. Actually, the building code that we are using now was developed in 1932 by the colonial government. We have made proposals for change of that building code to bring on board other technologies in housing delivery. And these are some of the areas where we think we have vast investment opportunities. National Housing Corporation, for example, actually has already embarked on putting up a factory that is going to use polystyrene in making building panels. It gives you a house in a week or 2 weeks. Those panels, once they are ready. And these are some of the areas where we want to encourage investments from out, either on joint venture basis or on foreign basis. We will provide the necessary support. Planning has been a major problem in our in most of our urban areas. The planning laws have actually been scattered in about 7-8 ministries, to an extent where when a building collapses, you are not able to pinpoint who is responsible. You go to lands, they tell you it's housing. You go to housing, they say it's public works. Public works will tell you it's the city council. So we're just trying to harmonize all those laws into one authority. We have proposed a planning and building authority that will be charged with the responsibility of ensuring proper planning of our towns, proper planning of all the buildings. Inspections will be done on a yearly basis. All buildings will be required to have provision for the disabled and many other things that go with modern planning.
I think Diaspora will appreciate that a lot, because many people have been worried about that. And that is where I was going to go to. Most of us, as I said, we are Kenyans. We've also got people from like the Asian origin who might want to tell us a little bit about what can we buy from their you know, from maybe India. What can we buy from China? What can we get? What ideas can we bring to the Kenyan table to be able to build our housing market?
Maybe before perhaps one of the major challenges of housing and delivery of housing and trying to equate supply and demand in Nairobi, or for that matter in Kenya, is the methods of construction. That has been a major challenge in the sense that we still were using the conventional methods of construction. You go to dig your foundation, you do your slab, you wait for 21 days for it to cure, then you look for stone, you dress the stone, you wait for it, blah blah blah. By the time you're doing that house, one single unit is costing you 9 months, right? And of course with the attendant costs both for money and the materials. And when Waziri started challenging us as an institution, what is it that we are going to do? What do we need to do in order to address this huge challenge or deficit of houses? And we sat back and told the ministry, for that matter, that what has other countries done? What have they done to do this, to bring the supply on board? And you must start looking at the delivery process as an industrial process. If you don't do housing as an industrial process, then there is no way you'll do any justice to the shortage. And they listened to us. And the only way to do that is look at, for instance, a house the way you look at a motor vehicle assembly plant. At the end of the day, you've got a house coming in and coming out almost on a daily basis. So what we're doing, what is actually mentioned, is that we realize that we must change the way we do house in terms of technology. We're going to do a factory in Nairobi. That factory is going to save us 30% of the cost, and it's also doing 50% of the time. Now, when then you need scale if you are going to upscale, then you need that as a process of delivery. And between us, and we've said that most likely we are going to require another factory in Mombasa. We will most likely require 2 other plants in Nairobi. There is a possibility we will need another factory in central Kenya. We will need Rift Valley, and we will need Western. And we've said the government leads the way, the private sector then follows.
Sure.
So we have taken the pledge. We're having the first factory delivered in June. We'll be in production. So we want to do industrial panels that are delivered from the factory for specific site and be able to move on. Now we also think that there is a place for PPPs. In our opinion, we think 80% of low and middle income housing will have to be delivered on a PPP basis. The government does not have adequate funds to deliver the houses at the scale and the volumes and the monies that are required to do so. Now, for that to do that, then we must synergize what is the government's strength and the private sector strength. We must look at the tenacity, the experiences, the innovativeness of the private sector must be teamed up with what policy framework the government is able to do in order to deliver the type of houses we require. And we've already started, we're already on board in a small way as an institution, and tell you it is working and it's going to work.
Thank you. So any ideas at all? I would like you to make it quite short so as everybody can get time to talk as well. So as before the program ends, everybody should have said. So what can we get from, what ideas can we get from any country you think about? Somebody said Singapore, somebody would look at even China. So what can we say?
What would be the position of the government for affordable housing, like what happened in Cyprus? When Cyprus had a problem, if you go to Nicosia today, as soon as you are entering Nicosia, you find the houses which has been built there, which is affordable houses. I believe in Kenya or in developing countries today, we need that. How does the government help us on that one? If an overseas investor wants to come for those sort of...
Thank you. Now, now, Dr. Were, tell us, what is it about Kenya? You know, there are so many areas that people say invest in these. Where do you think diaspora can put their money in Kenya? What markets?
Just as I indicated earlier, and as indicated by the ministers, the market is wide open. And as I indicated earlier, even in terms of road construction, we have actually seen that many of our people are unable to set up those companies, and there is a large amount of investment that is being put on the road infrastructure right now, and most of the money that is being put there actually is going outside the country, because most of the companies that are doing our roads are Chinese. And if I understand very well, there is a lot of money out in the diaspora, and I would really want to encourage our people who are out here that there is something that they can also do there in terms of road network, because you see how the road network is in where you are here. It is quite different from our country there. So I would want to encourage you people who are out here that there is still a lot of business that you can do out there. And two, our people, of course, Balozi has already mentioned that we have the manpower, and I would want to say that actually the manpower that we have is positive. They've got the positive attitude, because you see, you can also have that manpower, but the attitude is negative. The Kenyans have got a very positive attitude, and I believe if we got investors, they would really find very good people to work with. Thank you very much. I mean, I think we are just exhausted our time, but I would like to give anybody who've got something very, very quickly to say, less than 20 seconds, you know, just to finalize the program. And we will have the ministers finalizing at the end. But if the panel wanted to say one thing in 20 seconds, because I will stop it if it's not 20 seconds, because there's definitely something you've been listening and you just want to add it on. 20 seconds. Yes.
Thank you. I think one thing I'd like to present goes to the Ministry of Housing. For reality, Kenyans in the diaspora have put a lot of investment in properties back home. But the challenge you're facing now, because of course, the demands is higher than the supply. So you realize that you put in about 15 million Kenya shillings in buying a property in some prime area. You can understand that the rent in Kenya has gone very high. Now, we know that majority of Kenyans that I've met in the recent times, they cannot get back their money, because for them to repay back their mortgage, they need to spend over 160,000 shillings. Now, the challenge is most of those properties are empty. Now, what are we doing to ensure that this doesn't happen? Because now people are getting a little bit demoralized. Why should I keep on investing in property while I cannot get anything back? It's a challenge.
Thank you very much. So I think that is something you could add on to later. Anybody, any one thing that you have to say in 20 seconds?
What I would like to say briefly is on behalf of the diaspora. The government also requests us to invest back home. I can say and I can attest, having lived in UK for some time, that now we have the skills, the knowledge. We've got people out there who have really educated here. Please also empower Kenyan-based companies who are here, because they can deliver as well, and they are very passionate about their country as well.
Thank you.
Because we have the housing minister here, a survey I was doing on the coast strip early in the year, it was very clear to me that what was lacking, you were talking about development of houses and buildings, but what seemed to be lacking was a town plan in the different areas, and you got this mismatch of industry and commercial together with other types of housing all mixed together, which doesn't work when you're developing a town or an area. I think the minister could look at that.
Anybody else before the minister talk? Yes.
I just wanted to conclude by naming one very important investment opportunity in ICT that the diaspora need to take advantage of, and that is in content. We have 4 fiber optic cables in the country. We have huge pipe with serious capacity, 2.4 terabytes worth of bandwidth currently sitting there with no utilization. For how long are we going to watch content on TV, through the internet, from abroad? It is a good time for the diaspora to take advantage and invest in content. And when we talk about content, it is really out there. Anything that can be watched through the internet qualifies for content. Software, TV shows, comedies. We are yet to see a comedian like the one we were seeing last night in the event, one in Kenya showing on a TV channel. So that is where the biggest ICT investment opportunity.
Fantastic. Anybody else before we give the minister time to give their closing statement? But I think before the minister speak, I could ask the High Commissioner to just tell us about how diaspora can access your services very quickly.
Well, generally, I think I myself, as the Kenya's High Commissioner here in London, I must say that I am very impressed with the whole range of ideas that I have had on how we can be able to engage with the diaspora. And quite frankly, most of the peer representatives of the diaspora who are present here can confirm that the Kenya High Commission in London is now fully accessible as far as their voice is concerned. And we have already set up a diaspora desk at the High Commission. And generally, I don't think there is much that we can do other than continuous engagement with each and every one of them. And this is very clearly captured in my own strategic plan for the High Commission, and copies of which, of course, are available as far as all of them are concerned. So we continue with the engagement. The Kenya High Commission will continue facilitating and helping in the coordination of all the activities that they will continue to undertake.
Thank you very much. Now we give the ministers to close for their closing statement.
Yeah, maybe I would just wish to respond to what Mr. Ochieng raised. I think what you're talking about is as a result of the cost of money in Kenya. And as and when we continue with these developments, we are foreseeing a situation where interest rates are going to go down. And we think maybe if we continue at this pace, we are talking about a single-digit interest rates in the foreseeable future. But as it is right now, Kenyan banks operate like cartels. It's like they meet and decide how much they want to charge. A good example is where a free market situation has been allowed to operate. Obviously, the cost of the services will normally go down, like the mobile phone operators. There was a serious war recently between Safaricom and Zain, and Kenyans are paying almost a quarter of what they used to pay before that. So if banks maybe were allowed to operate without operating like cartels, maybe we would not be where we are today. But we foresee that situation. I think someday somebody will come into the sector, and we will be able to address some of those concerns. But as you said, if you take a mortgage of 2 million shillings, the repayment per month is about 75,000 shillings for 12 years. And maybe you are renting that house out for 50,000 shillings. So you have to supplement every month in terms of repayment of the mortgage. Those are some of the mismatches in the sector, but I believe with the time they'll be able to be addressed.
Maybe in addition to just help up on that particular item, one of the problems that you realize, or what perhaps the Kenyans in the diaspora are reaping now, investments that were done perhaps without following a structured manner. For instance, if you just sent in money and somebody bought your plot somewhere in Kitengela and you put in a 20 million investment, it will not pay, certainly. But if you came to experts, for instance, National Housing Corporation, we can easily guide you and tell you, if you put your money here, this will show you this type of return. Sure. If you go through our desk today, I have a booklet there that talks about National Housing Corporation. It gives you very general payback periods and returns on various locations of the country. Now, whereas that is merely representative, it just tells you that we have the skills to guide you and you can make an informed investment, an informed judgment. Now, obviously, we are just one among many professionals in town now. Now, if you pick some of the good names, Lloyd Masika, Tyson's, Knight Frank in Nairobi, you can easily get your investment directed properly and properly structured in a manner that addresses your issues of return. And then, of course, the same can actually be properly managed for you when you're actually in London. And you just agree on a commission with, but again, that's another area with a lot of landmines. You've got to be careful as to who you engage. So that's why I've said you've got to go through the properly registered people for you to be able to get that particular type of service.
Thank you. Viewers, we have come to the end of the program, but I would like to say before we go that we Kenyans in the diaspora would request the government to make information available all the time of coming up opportunities of what diaspora can engage in, because we have shared an expo, yes, but what happens after the expo? What we are missing in the UK for the diaspora, everywhere, even in America, is to have this information coming in. So that is what I would like the government to do. But viewers, I hope you have really enjoyed that bit of the program. And what I would like to say also, we have our website, Africanacts.com. If you have any suggestion, if you have any comment, if you have any way that you think we can invest in Kenya better, or you have any way that we can brand Kenya better in the UK, would like to have your views, because they count a lot. And we are looking, not only asking Kenyans, even if you're a non-Kenyan watching this program and you think there's a way we can improve Kenya, please do give us a call or do email us to make this discussion going, to keep this forum going. Thank you very much, the panel, for your suggestion, for your comment, and also for all the input you put in the program. Thank you. And the ministers for availing yourself. Thank you very much. I would also like to give credit to Sam Ochieng, Koba, and Dr. Martin Koyabe, CEO, Koba, Kenya High Commission, His Excellency Ephraim Ngare, Lillian Kimeto, Communication Officer, Ministry of Housing, for facilitating this round table. Thank you very much. And until next time, viewers, keep watching Diaspora Forum.